Hello, 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 and welcome to today's installment of Creative for More of a podcast. If you're listening in and wondering, hey, is it my sound system? Why does Tonbra actually sound this way? Sounds a little bit different, huskier than usual, perhaps. It's because I am struggling with my voice at the moment, but I thought nonetheless I will still show up on the podcast. So please send me all your good vibes, all your well wishes, because I need it. So, I am super excited about the topic I'm going to be talking about today. It's a solo episode, activation series, and my job is to drop something meaningful in your spirit, something that will propel you, catapult you to take action and move your life significantly forward. So today I'm going to be speaking about something that is really um, core to who I am in terms of personal beliefs and convictions. It's something that I feel that is foundational, that everyone needs to do to really be on that road to self-discovery. So what I'm talking about today is what it actually truly means to own your story. It's a phrase that has been banning about. Everyone says it. You need to own your story. You need to own your story. You need to do this. You need to do that. But what does it actually mean in practice? And are there some things or steps that we all need to do in order to fully come into that place where we say, you know what, I'm the owner of my story, essentially. That's what I'm going to be looking at today. So where I'm starting today, and I made notes, so you see me looking up and down. That's why, because it is such a core topic that I didn't want to wing it. I was just like, you know what, let me make sure I get through every single thing that I've got for you today. So it's going to be it's going to feel like a teaching, but hopefully, like I said at the start, it should be something that propels you to, embrace all of who you are, own your story, so that you can make great impact in the world, because that's exactly what I'm about on the podcast, right? Creative for more. I'm starting with a quote from Brene Brown, and it says that you can either walk inside your story and own it, or stand outside of it and hustle for your worthiness. So you can either walk inside of your story and own it, or stand outside of it and hustle for your worthiness. Think about that for a second. So what that means in essence is that you can either be the champion, the captain, commander of your destiny, or be someone looking from the outside in, trying to be in with the crowd, trying to be part of this thing, rather than being in control and driving essentially what the narrative is of your life. I don't know about you, but I definitely know that the latter, the former, I keep mixing former and latter. The former is definitely where I would like to be. I know that a lot of people feel, for people who really understand what owning your story means, a lot of people feel as if, what's the point? What is it? Why do I have to come out with it and maybe share stuff about me that maybe I am not too proud of, things that I want to hide, things that probably even have no meaning. And some of the reasons why people give, why they don't own their story, they don't, come and share some of these intimate details. And I say that with a caveat. I'm not saying that you go around at the street talking about everything that is very personal to you. There is a process to it. I always advocate that you must make sure that you heal before you start talking about your story. And healing is a continuum. It's not, you don't get to one place where, oh yeah, you're completely healed. But some people do. But I feel like you share to the degree at which you feel comfortable, at which you feel healed, at which you feel, whole. If you do it and you rush into it because you are feeling driven by other factors that shouldn't count, you find that it's a bit more, it's worse. What you have an inverse effect of what you're actually trying to do. Okay, so some of the reasons, I'm going to list some of the reasons why people don't, they feel as if sharing my story will not do anything, so if I sweep it under the rug, it will take care of itself. If I sweep my story under the rug, if I don't talk about these things, you know what, it just takes care of itself. Well, guess what happens is that you just have this, and I'm probably, maybe 80% of people who are listening to this podcast today are going to see truths in some of what I'll be sharing. So if I don't do anything about it, if I sweep it under the rug, it will take care of itself. How many know that that can be really, really, really damaging for a lot of people? A lot of people have this very negative internal dialogue because of things that they have allowed fester within themselves about themselves, that then taints the whole paradigm through which they see the world. So remember what I said at the start, the beautiful quote from Brene Brown, where she says that if you're not driving your story, if you're essentially not owning your story, you're outside of your story, essentially hustling for worthiness. That should never be you. You should never be hustling for your worthiness. And one of the things that I teach my ladies on my any programs that I run, I have a set of what I call my 12 agreement, the 12 agreements. I think I'm going to be writing a book about the 12 agreements soon, because it's been one of those things or foundational truths that have reset. I find that has been really, really powerful in resetting the mindsets and really shifting people from that region of not knowing who they are to, understanding who they are and becoming empowered by just the strength that they have. So one of the things, the first thing I always say is that my worthiness comes from who I am in God and nothing else, right? So you should always know that who you are in and of yourself is enough. Your worthiness doesn't come from the things that you have happened to you or the things that you have happened, you have done, things that you feel regretful about, or things. Your worthiness doesn't come from all of that. Your worthiness as a truth comes from who you are in God and nothing else. I'll tell you a second thing before I move on to my second point. Second thing that I teach is the fact that value doesn't change. What changes is perspective. So what that means is that whoever you are, whatever value you carried into this world on the day that you were created, really essentially just it is a constant. Right? So you are valuable in and of yourself the way that the day that you were created, and that is what made the case for you to be on this earth, right? In this minute. Everything that's happened on earth since, right, doesn't diminish. It doesn't diminish from who you are as a central core person that God created to be on this earth to help make this world a better place. There is something on the inside of you that has been put there from the foundations of the earth, and nothing, no ill stories, no bad experiences, no slander, no wrong choices, poor decisions, none of that can take it away. I want you to hold on to that who I am is valuable. My value comes from who I am in God and nothing else. That's the first perspective that you take. So essentially, when you sweep it under the rug and you believe that it will take care of itself, you're not addressing the problem. And when you don't address the problem, it taints this view of your worthiness that I'm talking about, and it then colors your entire world and stops you from walking around the earth and making decisions that empower you and make you a better person. That's number one. The second thing is that people believe that, you know what, if I draw a line in the sand, then it means that it won't have power over me. I get to decide, right? I'm a human being. I decide, like, I just draw a line in the sand. That's the past is in the past, and it just stays there and it stays buried. Again, same as the first point. Once you do that, you just keep. It's something. It gives it more power, because you're constantly thinking that there's something about me that nobody knows, and if people know about it, it means that, again, I will be less worthy than I am now. And we all know, as we've said in the foundational truth, that your worthiness comes from who you are in God and nothing else. The third one is that people feel sometimes that if I speak about it, the more I speak about it, the more hurt I will feel. Yes, sometimes if you're speaking about it in the wrong way, to the wrong people, in the wrong context, all of that, yes, you can. It is possible that you will feel more hurt, but the truth is that a lot of times when you start to speak about it, you are releasing the power in that story, and then you are able to then control the narrative around it so that you can take power from it. So if you're speaking about it in the right way, you're then able to take power from it. Honestly, these things I'm telling you, I am not just saying, I'm not just speaking off the cuff just because I want to speak. I'm speaking actually here in this from really, really personal experience. I remember in 2020 would have been when I, started this my walk of personal discovery. So I was in the exact same place. I had things that, people that were even like closest to me didn't know about, experiences that I ever had that I felt, completely tainted me, that I felt like if people knew, it would, diminish my value somehow. I don't ask how I deduced that, but that is how most people feel, really. It would diminish my value, and somehow I would not be able to, I would feel, again, I felt this, that if I talked about it, I would feel more hurt and I would feel more tainted and all of that. But guess what? I knew that I had to take that power away from this situation that I had built up in my mind to be, this huge, gigantuan thing. So what I did was I did exactly what I'm speaking about today. I just spoke about it. I literally just, mine was, it's a dramatic. I got a camera crew. I got a camera crew and I invited them over to my house. And this was me. I sat down one day and I started talking about literally some of my, some things that I had kept so close to my chest because I thought they were huge, more big than they actually were. But guess what happened? When I started to talk about it, I started to get, you know, the reaction that people had, the reaction from people was what surprised me the most. People felt a lot more endeared to me. People felt, they could connect with me in deeper ways than before. I had people saying to me, you know what, I never knew this about you. I have this in common with you. And I always, my mentor, Fela Durotoye, always says that the true power in your story is being able to release the power in somebody else's story. And I experienced that in its totality, because I had people saying to me like, oh my goodness, that happened. Oh, this similar thing happened to me. And people just felt free enough to unburden themselves. And I started hearing different stories and people were getting healed. And it was just this humongous, I don't even know. It was this snowball thing. It was one thing that led to this and led to that and led to this. It was just like chain reaction. I think that's what it's called. And it was so beautiful to see, to witness, to be a part of, to have initiated. And it's so freeing. You literally walk around as if you are floating, because you have essentially shamed your shame. This is something that one of my big sisters, Edin Aomuka, she says you have to get to a point where you can shame your shame. where you're not hiding and hoping no one finds about this deep dark secret that could potentially, if you're in that situation, you are basically not living in your story. You're not driving your story. You're outside of it and hustling for worthiness. Right? So remember this, this scenario that I'm painting to you, the two scenarios I'm painting to you, you can either be inside of it, driving it, or you can be outside of it, hustling for your worthiness. That's it really, essentially. The final one, actually, I would say, is that people sometimes feel like, if I tell myself that I'm okay, if I don't, regardless of whether or not I do the work, it means that I am. It doesn't actually work like that. I wrote a news article this week to my newsletter subscribers, and I was talking about how walking around with unprocessed emotions is a lot like holding an inflatable ball, trying to hold an inflatable ball, a plastic inflatable ball underwater. You're constantly trying to push that ball underwater, but guess what, it never stays underwater, because as soon as you look elsewhere, you lose your guard, it pops right back up to the surface, and it takes a lot of work to just try and keep it submerged. And that is what we do when we don't heal, we don't allow ourselves process the pain that we are in. We try to hide it and shroud it in secrecy. What happens is that when you are not looking, it will catch you off guard. You will be whole. You will feel as if there is something that that makes you, that you're putting in the effort to hide, that you really, really do need to release. So why, Tonbra, if someone is asking me the question, what does it actually mean? You told me about the things that people do. What does it actually mean when, how, I mean, what does it actually mean to actually own my story? So the first thing I will say is that you have to understand that the human mind is a magnifier. A lot of people, particularly when their stories about who we are, things that we have experienced, a lot of times, unfortunately, I'd like to say that people look at the glass as half empty, but the truth is that we always look at it as half full. A lot of us we catastrophize, which is a cognitive distortion that a lot of people experience. And what catastrophizing means is you look at a situation and you see it as worse than it actually is. So when things happen, most times we look at it and we are instantly inferring really, really quickly and taking, creating our own truth from it. And sometimes these truths, quote and unquote, that we create are even more damaging than the actual facts. So the first thing you must understand is we see things as worse. Sometimes we tend to see things as worse as they are. So when you are looking and you're reliving some of these experiences, understand that a lot of times it's not really as bad as you feel it is. That's exactly how I felt. This thing that I said, you would have to go on YouTube and watch the videos of me telling my story about my birth and all of this, all the things I thought was so huge and so big. Oh my goodness. The truth that no one cared. The truth that once I started talking about it, people felt even more endeared to me for saying it, for owning it, for taking the power from it. They felt like, oh my goodness, oh, she's authentic, she's true, oh, she's the kind of person I feel a lot more connected with because I know who she really is. In this day and age where everybody moves around, is faking this and faking that, you don't know what is true from what is not true. It's really, really good to see some authenticity, to see some real humanity. And that's what happens when you own your story. You show that you are human after all. The second thing is when you own your story, you are, which I kind of mentioned in the first point, you are then able to separate fact from truth, right? So the fact is what happened, the details of what happened, and the truth is how you have what you have created off of that. So sometimes you need to really be able to delineate between the two so that you can really see that, the fact is not really as bad as you thought it was. Or sometimes even the fact is bad, but I am going to create a truth that allows me, heal, that allows me move forward, that allows me take power and take charge and be in the driver's seat. Yeah. The other thing is that, really, when when you own your story, it helps you be honest and come into a true position of vulnerability, to become a higher manifestation of yourself, to be able to be a change and an impact maker and driver in the world. It has to come from a genuine place of authenticity and truth. And owning your story is what helps you break into that, because it helps you embody your humanness so that you can stand in your light, essentially. When you own your story, you are able to not just justify mistakes, you are able to learn from mistakes. Because most times in these internal dialogues that happen in our minds for the things that have happened, sometimes we're speaking in tenses, speaking in terms that shame ourselves, like, this thing that happened, la da 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 da, I am not good, and all these things that happen. But when you're able to step aside and stand outside of it and speak about it, you are able to then often look at it and say, this is what I have learned. You're able to take power from the scenario. You're able to take power from it. This is what I have learned, and this is what it has made me as a result of it, rather than suffering, either feeling the negativity that comes from the guilt of the experiences that you've had, and just letting those negative voices condemn you. You are able to say, this is what it is. You look at it in simple terms, and then you're able to take the power that you need from it. The other one I've got here is that accepting responsibility. Owning your story means accepting responsibility without owning things that don't belong to us. Without owning things that don't belong to us. I am responsible. One of the agreements that I have, that I often teach my ladies, I am responsible for my actions and no one else's. A lot of times as human beings, we are often blaming ourselves for the actions of others. So those boundaries around responsibilities, they get really blurred, and you can't really tell, she did this to me, but because I did this, and it's just this thing. But when you're able to look objectively at a situation and you're taking power from your story, you're able to look at it and you accept responsibility. This is what I did, without owning what doesn't belong to you, without owning things that don't belong to you, and seeing yourself as an entity that is separate, and not taking consequences from others. This one I love, I think it's number 4 or 5 now. I love it. And it's owning your story is exercising your power of choice. It's choosing something different. Isn't that wonderful? It's choosing something different. So it's not looking back and saying, oh, this has happened and that is the only way that it can be. It's looking back again, learning from what has happened, and choosing that, I can't change the past, but I can change what I'm going to do in the future, and I can choose a different path for myself. And this is so powerful, that if you're able to really truly walk in it, it is so rewarding as a way of life. It's choosing something different. It's owning your truth and choosing something different. And when you own your story, I've got here also, when you own your story, you are able to, it has redemptive significance. Yeah, redemptive significance in the sense that you are able to redeem yourself, and the price you pay is that you are able to come into that place of true healing. Like, yes, I own it, it has happened. It's being able to look at what has happened in the past without wanting necessarily giving up your right for it to be different, or giving up. People are constantly, one of the things that troubles a lot of people is that they're constantly thinking back, reflecting, and remaining in a torturous state because they're constantly hoping that the past can be different. And that's symptomatic of somebody who hasn't really owned their story and accepted the truth of their lives. So when you own your story, you're giving up that desire for the past to be different. You're looking at it and saying, it's happened, it's okay, and I am all right with it. So it's like it's redeeming yourself. It's like, okay, I'm stepping into a higher place, and that comes with healing, that comes with more self-love and compassion, and the reward of it is then being able to integrate part of your history, being able to look at everything and integrate everything back into your personal narrative without it haunting you. How many people know the feeling of just stories of the past that still feel like they're haunting you? You close your eyes, that's the first thing you see, and everyone's seeing you smiling, everyone is seeing you doing all these great things, but on the inside you're just dying because you're hiding this awful secret. But when you are able to redeeming yourself is like coming to this point where you say, you know what, this thing no longer has power over me. I release myself, I absorb myself from any responsibility. I don't take on anyone's own anything that doesn't belong to me. I see what it is, I learn from it, and I am able to then integrate this thing that was supposed to be a mess into the narrative, the personal narrative of my story, pull everything together and say, you know what, it's all right. I look at it and it's no longer this broken, fractured thing. It's just this beautiful tapestry of the story that is my life, this beautiful fabric of the story that is my life. When you look at a fabric, so sometimes you see patterns, you see this, you see all that, but everything together makes it beautiful. And the most wonderful thing about owning your story, I call it sifting through the rubble. So it's being able to sift through this rubble of what you thought was this chaos of what has become your life or parts of your life, and being able to sift through it and take what I call the spoils of war. So the things that are meant to arm you with strength, rather than looking at these things as rubbish and waste product of your lives. You're able to look at it and take power of it, and you're able to see these things as your conquests. As these are the things that I have gotten. These are the things that show that I am actually a warrior. I would say that if it did not kill you, it actually shows that you are strong and you survived. And if you survived, it means that you are a warrior. It means that you've got scars that have stories. It means that you have things to teach others to help them not fall into the same entrapments if it's avoidable. You have something to pass on to somebody else to make their lives even better than it currently is. So you who listening to this, summary is you are a warrior. Start looking at those scars as scars of triumph. Do the work you need to do to feel whole enough to take power from it, right? There's something that I want to share that I think will be beneficial in terms of just bringing this home. And it is this quote, um, and it's a quote that I created, but anyway, it's from the Bible. I'll just spill it. Somebody just say it. Okay. So on the day they're looking for somebody who will kill the giant, who knows that you have killed the lion and the bear. So a lot of us, we walk around, we don't put our scars on our CVs because we feel as if, again, it taints us. But what we don't know is that we are losing the power that we have earned just by pure fact that you've survived. You have earned. So nobody sees those battle scars on your CV. So the day that they're looking for somebody to handle Goliath, nobody knows that you have the experience of killing the lion and the bear. So you want to come out, own up all of who you are, what you've learned in the university of life, the faculty of survival, the department of thank God I did not die. Gosh, you are powerful. You are more powerful than you realize. All you need to do is take power from your story. All you need to do is walk inside of your story instead of being outside of it and hustling for worthiness. If you had nothing I said today, I want you to remember this. You are powerful. Your story is powerful. You want to own your story. Stand in your light so that people can see who you really, truly, truly are and learn from you and be more blessed because you came. Okay? So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It's been brilliant. Bringing it to you. Let me know what you learned. Send me an email or at tonbra@tonbra.com. Let me know if this resonated with you, or send me a note on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Take care. Bye-bye.